Well, hello and welcome to yet another week of Filmcast Without a Cause, the podcast where I, Jacob Rosdale,
And I, Patrick Boberg.
talk about movies and movie news, and we review a movie, and pretty much it's a filmcast, and we don't have a cause for it.
That's right. But if we might have a cause, if you join us, maybe leave a comment on either our email, filmcastwoac.com, at gmail.com, or Twitter or the FWOAC phone. Just check out the website, filmcastwithoutacause.com.
Pat, of course, the big news this week is the build-up to the Academy Awards that happened Sunday. We're not going to talk about it this week until later in the show. We're going to do a little Oscar talk. But we're just going to move on to that, save maybe that for next week, and just talk about some films that are in development. The first film I want to talk with you a bit about, Pat, is a new film announced last week for director Michael Mann. He's a filmmaker I'm actually quite a big fan of, or at least I was at one point. I wasn't crazy about his last film, Public Enemies. How do you feel about Michael Mann, Pat?
You know, I am not the world's biggest fan of Michael Mann. I might be the weirdo who actually likes The Last Mohicans out of all of his films the most, and I've come around 100% on Ali, thinking that it's actually a great film, I think, but I am not a fan of Heat, Collateral, and I thought Public Enemies was a big mess. But what makes you such a big fan of his?
Well, Heat and Collateral, actually. And, now that I think about it, I wasn't a big fan of the Miami Vice movie. Or Ali, maybe I need to revisit. But I've always been a fan of Heat, and I know that's kind of a divisive film. Or it's not even that divisive film. Just lately there seems to have been a backlash towards it. And Collateral, I think, is one of Tom Cruise's better films, one of Jamie Foxx's better performances. And also I like Manhunter, the pre-Silence of the Lambs Hannibal Lecter film. That's all I can think of at the moment. But I also was really disappointed by Public Enemies and, as I mentioned, Miami Vice. But I think the new film he's developing might have some potential, even though we don't really know much about it yet. All we know is that it is a cyber-thriller, which that's kind of a scary title, or kind of a scary genre, if you ask me. Because as we talked about last week when we talked about Die Hard, or whatever it was called, Live Free or Die Hard, World War WW, World War IV or whatever. Cyber thrillers are almost always instantly dated. But I think they're never really done seriously. And if there's anything Michael Mann's films is they're a little too self-serious.
Well, you say that they're films that are generally, not received well because they get dated so quickly. But then you got to think, with the little bit of amount we know, it's really just a cyber thriller starring Chris Hemsworth. Could this film be in the vein of, say, this is a bad film to pull out of the hat, but Virtuosity, or maybe even Blade Runner, something that's cyberpunk and, set in the future? Is it going to be set in 2014 or whenever it comes out?
It'd be very interesting if Michael Mann were to do a sci-fi film, but I somehow doubt it is. I read about this on Variety, and they, again, didn't know much, but they seemed to suggest that it was going to be a cops and criminal story, much like Heat, much like Miami Vice, much like Manhunter, even.
Well, Blade Runner's kind of a cops and criminals story in a way.
Yeah, that's true.
Surface.
Actually, if you look at the plot of Blade Runner, that's all it is. It's very episodic. He kills one replicant, and then he goes after another replicant until he is chased by a replicant.
But the reason I thought it might be a sci-fi movie is because it says here he's writing it with Morgan Davis Foll, who is also penning the Mass Effect, a video game movie, for Legendary Pictures. So if it's this gentleman who's adapting Mass Effect, maybe he has an idea for that he called his good friend Michael Mann and said, hey, I've got an idea for a film. You want to work on it together?
You know me, I'm always interested in genre films, but for some reason, or especially sci-fi genre films, but for some reason am hoping that this is a modern day, because I don't really know anything about the real world of cybercrime and the people who are out to stop it. All I know are the cheesy thrillers, the Die Hard 4s, the what's the one with Diane Lane where there was a serial killer who would kill someone if he gets enough hits on his YouTube page or something, Untraceable.
Oh my goodness.
Something like that. I think that's all that's really been done in films. I just saw today that there's a documentary. This is totally, I doubt it's going to be about this, but there's a documentary out about the Pirate Bay and the legal battle to take them down. I don't think this will be like that, but the actual real world cybercrime, and this is probably more about hackers and serious hackers than The Matrix or the film Hackers, which I've never seen.
Well, if he's got more clout than Len Wiseman, who we've been beaten on with Total Recall, or Live Free or Die Hard. Maybe he's a little closer to Spielberg, and he'll give us something in the lines of his Tom Cruise picture from about Minority Report.
Oh yeah, you know, I it would be cool to see a sci-fi film from Michael Mann. I don't think he's really done a fantasy or horror film that I can think, or fantasy horror, or well, Manhunter is kind of horror, but sci-fi, one of those hard, really out there genres. The only other thing I wanted to ask you about, Pat, of your thoughts about this. It's not the first we're going to see from Hemsworth post Thor, but do you think this is promising for him, that he would take on a serious role and as a, like, if it's a real world movie, or do you think the fact that they're casting Hemsworth is the sign that it's going to be otherworldly?
A very interesting question. I would say that it's probably better because we've seen Hemsworth in other films recently where I thought he wasn't going to pull it off, namely Cabin in the Woods, and then I was perfectly fine with him in that film. So it might go somewhere that's not completely otherworldly and stay grounded in reality. But at the same time, he seems like a guy who is just built to be like our generation's, watered down Arnold. Not that he's a bad. Not that I'm saying he's bad as Arnold. He's just not, Mr. Beefcake Arnold like Arnold was. That's what you get in every one of his films.
Well, I think the fact that he's cast in this, assuming that it's not a genre film, is very promising for Hemsworth post-Thor. Because what we've seen of him so far, Red Dawn and Cabin in the Woods were both filmed before Thor came out. I know he has a Ron Howard film coming out later this year. But other than that, it's been like Snow White, I think. And that's very much he's playing a Thor-type character. So I think this role and probably this race car role he's playing later in the year in the film called Rush really are what's going to make or break Chris Hemsworth as a movie star. Since we don't know anything about that film, maybe we should move on to something we know slightly more about. The fact that this is a film that's going to feature a mummy, and we know that much at least. Universal, eager to reboot its Mummy franchise. Pat, have you seen all the Mummy movies?
I've not seen Mummy 3. I've seen Scorpion King though, so I don't know. It wasn't the Mummy 3 even four or 5 years ago?
Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. I believe that was 4 or 5 years ago. I remember seeing it in our old job and talking about it, so it wasn't too long ago.
Man, Congress needs to pass some legislation that says no more reboots unless it's been a decade or more.
Yeah, and maybe reboot is a strong word because we don't know a lot about this other than it's going to be a mummy film produced by Universal, and the rumors seem to be that this will be set in modern times. So maybe it could be a sequel if they, are vague enough. You could read it that way. But what's interesting about there's nothing that interesting about Universal wanting to reboot, one of their monster franchises. They do it all the time. I even heard that they were trying to reboot The Wolfman, which they just did, like 4 years ago or so.
Well, the funny thing about Universal too is for anybody who's gone to one of their parks, I think you went to one in Orlando, but in Los Angeles on their tour, they talk about their creature features like it's the only thing they've ever done. Like it's their pride and joy was Universal in their heyday making creature features like The Mummy.
Well, and yeah, if you go to the Universal Studios in Florida, they still have food stands that are Universal movie monster themed. They still have the Beetlejuice Rockin' Review, Graveyard Review, where all the Universal monsters come out, and then Beetlejuice turns them into pop stars. I still love that. And actually, speaking of The Mummy, one of the best things to ever come out of the Mummy franchise, and I kind of like the original, what's his name, goofy guy who made that laughing clap at the Golden Globes a few years ago, Brendan Fraser. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Absolutely, and then he hits his hands and points.
That's all he's known for to me now. I actually remember liking that original Mummy back then, but the roller coaster at Universal Studios, the Mummy coaster, is one of the better coasters. I'm a big fan of that. Probably the best thing to come out of the Mummy franchise. It's got flames. It's an in the dark coaster. But what's actually interesting about Universal rebooting the Mummies is that they've hired 2 screenwriters not to work together, but to write competing scripts, and they're going to either choose which one's better and or meld the two. And that kind of thing probably happens all the time. It's just never really this public that I know of. But these are 2 screenwriters with actual established credits. I mean, these are not cheap screenwriters. John Spates, the one that was just hired, just coming off of Prometheus, which he co-wrote with Damon Lindelof, and the one that has been working on it, Billy Ray, is one of my favorite screenwriters. Not for The Hunger Games, which he got paid a lot of money for recently, but he's a writer-director who did Breach, the Ryan Philippe film. I don't know if you saw that.
Well, I'm thinking that this might just be like a sonar shot, to say out into the ocean, hey, we're thinking about making this film, and then whatever noise comes back, maybe they'll do it or not. Maybe they just hired these guys on retainer to say they're writing these scripts, because I'm not the right person to say you should go see this movie or not, just because the second Mummy film is so preposterous with its hot air balloons and stupidity that I don't know what people out there want to see this film.
It is the second Mummy movie is really one of the worst I've ever seen. This story broke on Vulture, which is a movie blog, and the insider that talked to Vulture said that it's usually pretty rare that studios will get dueling scripts because credit arbitration is usually a nightmare. And if you ever listen to the Creative Screenwriting podcast by Jeff Goldsmith, or it's not Creative Screenwriting, it's called the Q&A now, if there are co-writers, they usually have to talk about the arbitration process, which is done through the Writers Guild of America, and you have to prove how much of the script you wrote, so you get an ampersand if you get the main writing credit, or if you get additional writing by credit. I don't know. If it looks good, the director attached is Len Wiseman, who we've already mentioned once on the show, so I don't know how much Universal actually wants this to succeed. But I don't know. I like mummies. I probably would see this mummy movie.
Since we've talked enough about genre films and creature features, maybe we should move into a little bit of Oscar talk, just to continue somebody has a film in the Oscars. We're talking about David O. Russell, and not the film that we reviewed on here. No, his next feature, which is going to be called
Abscam.
Abscam, yes. And do you happen to know what this story is? Because I do.
Yeah, I know very little about it. I know it's kind of like a con artist working with the government type of thing.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a true to life story that's a little more hard nosed than Catch Me If You Can. But in the 70s, some senators, some House representatives, people were involved in the scandal, and David O. Russell, I guess, is going to take a crack at it. Question is, will he be Mr. Subdued of his last two films, or with a very stylized take, or will he go back to the, as I dubbed him, the Danny Boyle of America with Three Kings? Because time period 20 years ago, it could be a pretty up-tempo, fun romp, maybe more fun than Argo.
Yeah, it did strike me as very Argo-ish reading about it, the kind of the con and it being a period film. I think the most interesting thing about this announcement is the cast that he's already lined up and how it seems to be people. David O. Russell, actually being a director who was known at one point for being very difficult to work with, now has a film that's more or less completely consisting of people who had starred in his previous films, his most recent films, including a lot of them who have received Oscar nominations for being in a David O. Russell film. The lead of this film would be Christian Bale as the main con artist who won an Oscar for The Fighter, and I believe his spouse or whatever is Amy Adams, who, again, The Fighter, an Oscar nomination. And I know Bradley Cooper, and it was just announced this week that Jennifer Lawrence were also in it, and of course they're nominated for this week the Academy Awards.
Well, that just goes to say that he must be that whatever happened on the set of I Heart Huckabees must be long in the past, because he's obviously got a posse, and if a director has people that want to come back and work with him a second or third time, that says something about him. Like, just look at Wes Anderson or Scorsese or Tim Burton. People want to work with him, and not just because there's a chance of them winning an award or making serious box office. I don't think any of David O. Russell films have raked in serious cash, but he's got some sort of cachet with the people who are going to be on the film.
Yeah, definitely. And even not that we're here to talk about how difficult someone is or not, but I'm interested in this to see Christian Bale again playing a serious role, because other than Batman, he's been kind of low-key lately after The Fighter. So I don't know, sign me up for 2014 and Abscam or whatever it's going to end up being called. I can't imagine it's going to stick with that title either. But moving on, let's bring in a special guest and discuss whether today is a good day to die hard with our feature review.
Do you know what I hate about the Americans? Everything. Especially cowboys.
American?
Yeah, New York.
Are you a cop?
Yeah. It's gonna be loud.
How'd you know I was a cop?
You don't look like a lawyer.
John McClane finds himself in the wrong place at the wrong time for the 5th time, traveling to Mother Russia to help his estranged son.
This guy's bad news. Terrorism, weapons-grade uranium, nukes. Someone's got to stop him. Attaboy.
At this time, I want to introduce our special guest critic for this episode, AJ Hodgman. AJ was a fellow critic with us at our old job and the biggest Bruce Willis fan I know.
Hey guys, how's it going?
AJ, we brought you on the show this week to discuss the 5th film in Bruce's signature franchise, A Good Day to Die Hard. The past 4 weeks on our show, we've been revisiting that series from the beginning in our FWOAC franchise flashback, discussing, among other things, how the films changed over time and what, in fact, makes a Die Hard movie a Die Hard movie. So before I get your opinion on the newest installment, I wanted to welcome you to the show, AJ, by asking you about your personal experience with the Die Hard franchise.
Well, my personal experience with Die Hard really starts with my dad, who's a self-proclaimed Bruce Willis lookalike. He has other people say he looks like it, but he really takes some pride in that. But he's really how I got interested in all the Die Hards, and that's who I watched the first one with, and it's been a tradition with me ever since, making sure I see all of the installments that come out. But I just can't get enough. I don't know what it is about it.
So, since you saw this one with your dad, Die Hard is very much a father-son thing with you, and this new Die Hard actually is kind of about a father and a son. So, Die Hard 5, big hit with you, I assume.
Yeah, I like Die Hard 5. I'm not going to say that I like it as much as the previous ones. The original 3 really hold a special place, but actually 1 and 3 have to be my 2 favorites out of the entire series. But 5 was great. I love watching Bruce on screen there, and he plays McClane like I would imagine an older McClane, except maybe a little bit more subdued.
See, and Pat, I want to get your opinion on this pretty soon, but that's one of the things I want to talk to you guys about, of whether or not you think the John McClane from Die Hard 5, A Good Day to Die Hard, is really the same John McClane as we see it in Die Hard. Do you think it's a question of character evolution, or just the actor playing him differently? I don't know if I see him as necessarily the same character. Pat, what do you think about this film and Bruce's performance?
I kind of feel like he is almost the same character who's just keep going down and down in his luck in his personal life. It's just the pepper on the world around him has changed flavors. Like in the first 3 films, he's, just a really good detective who happens to be in the wrong place. And in the future films, the last 2 films, being Live Free or Die Hard, in this movie, he's battling like almost Bond-style villains with giant explosions and things going on where he has no reason to be there. And the only reason he's in this movie and the things that are happening here is because his son is a CIA agent. I don't know if I can fault John McClane as much as I fault the writers for putting this character in this position. It's not a John McClane style movie. This is not the Die Hard that your dad knew.
No, and I completely agree with you, Pat. This is definitely not the Die Hard that my father knew, and it's not the Die Hard that I even know. I think that I agree with you that this isn't a John McClane type of setting, and maybe it's I don't care as much because the film takes place in Russia and we're not seeing any of the USA get destroyed. I don't know, but I do think that it's a completely different type of setting to put the character John McClane into.
I was really let down by this film, and I want to say I think a lot of it is just in the execution. Of course, it's always execution, but you mentioned that John McClane's son is in the CIA, and I think that completely changes the genre for this film.
Absolutely.
It is now a spy movie, and it's shot like the most generic spy movies that have come out post-Bourne. Pat, I know you've talked about it on the show before, how everyone's aping Paul Greengrass when it's a spy movie. It's always shaky cam, and there's a vehicular chase. I don't want to call it a car chase because it uses a lot more vehicles than that. A vehicular chase in the beginning of this movie that is so... I don't get queasy. I don't get the queasy cam label a lot, but while I was watching this, I became physically ill at times because it would snap zoom. It was using every film school trick, I think. Things we talk about in Intro to Film, what a snap zoom is, what a pan is, what a swish pan is, to nauseating effect. It was just one of the most poorly shot, I think, action sequences I've seen. There were a few cool things with it. I don't want to spoil too much to people who haven't seen the movie, but for the most part, I couldn't follow what was going on.
Well, I'm going to split the difference between the two of you because AJ already said that he really liked it, and I can tell, Jacob, that you've already said that you did not enjoy it. So I'm on the fence. I thought it was fun. Sometimes I can take myself away from a movie going, now my expectations are in the basement after Live Free or Die Hard. So I can see where this movie is fun at times, and I'm a fan of Bourne movies and the rip-off Bourne movies. Namely Safe House and that stuff. I mean, they're not generally anything that I'm going to put on a pedestal, but there's fun things to take from it. So I'm going to make both of you play devil's advocate for a minute. I'll start with Jacob since you were just saying what was negative. Give us something positive, and then when he's done, AJ, you followed up with something that you didn't like about it or something that you thought was just too much for the Die Hard films.
Oh, boy. Well, I remember last week when we were talking about Live Free or Die Hard, I said how I wanted it to go more low-tech after that film. And they do that not so much because Russia is a backwater country or whatever, but McClane has, for some reason or another, has to destroy his cell phone early on. So he is, more or less, he's not on his own like he is in the best Die Hard movies. He's still with his son. So I kind of like that. And the plot, as bad as it is kind of an 80s throwback, being set in Russia, having the lo-fi aspect of it. It doesn't quite live up to its potential, and I know I'm getting into the negative side again, but that was one thing I liked. And I think I also liked Jai Courtney as an actor. He was also in Jack Reacher, which I saw last year. I don't think he has a lot to work with here, but I do think he is a star on the rise, and I did like seeing him in this. And I'll go to AJ now.
Well, one of the negative things I think that has progressed with the Die Hard movies is the lack of a good villain. Give me a villain that I care about. Where's Hans Gruber? Where's Jeremy Irons as Hans Gruber, Hans Gruber's crazy brother Simon? We don't have that in Die Hard 2. We definitely don't have that with Timothy Olyphant in 4, and we don't have that bad guy in 5 with whoever the heck plays the crazy Russian. So that was one thing that I was really disappointed with is, in order for a Die Hard film to be successful, I think you've got to have that over-the-top, just insane villain that is hell-bent on his cause. And, I guess this villain in 5 didn't really give me much to, I didn't really care about him at all, and I felt either no way toward him, so...
And that's another problem with it being more of a spy film is, and I can't get into spoilers, but the identity of the villain is much more convoluted, and even before these plot twists, the villain motivation is so murky and political, and even though it's a Die Hard movie, so it eventually is less political, I don't know. I agree with you. One of the signature things that makes Die Hard, besides John McClane being in the wrong place at the wrong time, is a strong villain, and that was one of the larger disappointments.
And so much more important is the actor that plays the villain. I mean, you had Alan Rickman as Hans Gruber, and you had Jeremy Irons as Simon in the third one. And 1 and 3, I think those are still the tops for me. The top 2 Die Hards would be 1 and 3 for me, just because of those crazy villains and their personal vendetta against McClane. It just gives you something more to care about than saving Russia from political bad people. Yeah,
it's interesting too because just talking about comparing it to the history of the franchise, those first 3 films, everything that's happening to John McClane, he's not a globetrotter, he's not a world saver, he's just like a super great hostage negotiator / detective who's defending or saving the day in the public eye. There's like reporters and news and the 24-hour news cycle to play with, and here he's in the middle of nowhere, Russia, by the time that this climax movie comes around, not to give away the location. And it's like, okay, so this is some crazy explosions with a helicopter fight and falling through ceilings and things like that. But I kind of thought that the story with John McClane is that he's got to do something while battling everybody who's watching him do it, not just he's got to go save the day and then, almost Mission Impossible 3 or 4 style, Ghost Protocol, if he doesn't hit stop at the very last second, the world's going to explode. So that doesn't happen in this film. I'm not spoiling anything, but the flavor has completely gone, or the scent has gone completely cold here, and this dog has been led astray.
And I want to point to one of the things I think the film does wrong, and its attempt to humanize McClane and make him an everyman, even though every action he makes in the film is not everymanish. He's constantly saying, "I'm on vacation."
I noticed that too. I was wondering if you were going to say that.
I laughed a couple times when he said that at first. I thought it was funny.
At first, but he's not on vacation. He's there to rescue his son. He's making it like I'm not even supposed to be here today.
And he says it probably about 5 times.
But he chose to go there, so it's not the Dante from Clerks. I'm not supposed to be here today. It's it gets a little. And while I'm talking about things that got a little old, can we retire the elevator scene with gun trope from now on? Like, it's quiet and the music plays and the tough guys are in the elevator waiting for it to open. I've seen that in too many movies, and this time I was just I'm done with it. I'll let you guys talk for a little bit now.
So AJ, you were saying that you really liked it. I think we've been bashing it maybe a little. What were the parts as somebody who grew up with Bruce Willis doppelganger in his house? What were the things that really you enjoyed?
Well, I really enjoy the father-son thing. That's great for, if there's more guys like me who go watch the Die Hard with their dad, and dad's a little older, the McClane style, and maybe you're the little younger guy. So that was kind of neat, and that whole family aspect. You don't really get that in any of the other Die Hards. So that was something different that I liked. I also love some of the subtle little nuances that they threw in there. I don't know if you guys noticed it, but one of the scenes in there, they throw it back to the very first one with the little Hans Gruber tribute there.
Yeah.
The bad guy.
You can't spoil that if you.
I'm not going to spoil it. I'm just going to say they throw it back, and I liked that.
I did laugh. I don't know if that was their intention. I don't know how that could not be their intention.
It had to have been, because it was so obvious. But also, there's another scene in there where with the helicopter, and they're jumping past the helicopter, and I don't know if you guys noticed this, and I'm going to spoil it, but McClane is giving the helicopter the finger, and I laughed my butt off.
That was some of that McClane attitude. Pat, we've been ranking these films. I know you were down on Die Hard 4. I want to know if this one is above or below that one.
This one is above that one. It's like I said earlier, I don't really know if I can consider this truly a Die Hard story. I mean, maybe if it didn't have Die Hard on it and it wasn't John McClane, I'd like it maybe. But this it's the fourth out of the 5 films, and I don't know if they'll ever be able to make a movie as bad, in my opinion, as Live Free or Die Hard. AJ, what do you think? You already said that 1 and 3 are your favorites. I think we both agree with you on that. Where do you put 2, 4, and 5?
Well, let me give you just a little bit of backstory here on, and maybe I should have said this earlier, but I'm going to give you a little backstory on how I prepped for this Die Hard. I watched all 4 in a row.
In a day?
I had to split it up. I did 3 in a day, and then I did 4 on one day.
Wow.
So I did the trilogy on one day, and then it was too late, so I had to wait till the next day to do the 4th one. But
which is appropriate.
Having done that, I think it really helped me decide which ones I liked and what I liked about each one and what I didn't like. And so if I'm going to rank them in order, it's going to go 1, 3, and you're going to hate me, Pat, but 4, 2,
Jacob
and 5.
said the same thing, and I took him off the ledge.
I don't know. And maybe it's I like Timothy Olyphant as that bad guy in the 4th one. I don't know what it is. I think really what it might be is that if you watch the theatrical version of Live Free or Die Hard, it's terrible. It's horrible. If you watch the unrated version on DVD or Blu-ray, it's a much better movie simply because the fact they let McClane loose on his language.
Yeah. There are a few more F-bombs in the unrated.
Yeah.
Yes.
I cannot give into that because of Justin Black. He's just too stupid a character.
Oh, you mean the Matt guy?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I agree. I'll give you that one. He's a little bit much. But
so do any
Justin
of us?
Long. I'm sorry.
Are any of us hoping that they make a Die Hard 6?
They've already said they're going to.
I think if it's like them trapped inside of a 7-Eleven and it's going to blow up and somebody's trying to rob the 7-Eleven, because they're always about the heist. It's always about the money, as they said in this movie. Maybe then it'd be hilarious.
I think I'd like to see them in the 6th one have Bruce run around in bare feet again.
I think I'd like to see him travel back in time and try to kill a kid who is going to become like a super-powered supervillain in the future.
I can go for that. After this one, I definitely want there to be a sixth one because I do not want to see the franchise go out on this one.
You would
Completely
rather have it
agree.
end on Live Free or Die Hard than end on this?
Oh, I don't know about that. I still want them to go back to Nakatomi. I want them to
totally.
do
That'd be awesome.
I want them to go full circle. And I just think there's got to be people in Hollywood who actually love Die Hard. Like, I don't care who directs it, as long as it's not John Moore, the guy who directed this one. I don't think he can direct action. I don't care if they get Len Wiseman again. Like, I just want them to get a good script, someone who loves the first Die Hard, and someone who is passionate, about wanting to tell the ultimate, well, I don't want to say ultimate McClane story, because I think that's when you get into trouble. But if you make a good Die Hard movie, I guarantee it'll make as much money as this one that I think is inferior.
What I'm questioning, sorry to interrupt, Pat, but I want to know,
go ahead.
Is John McTiernan still alive? What's he doing?
He's in jail. He's in
jail. Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, he just recently went to jail for trying to... he hired somebody to stalk a producer. We don't need to get into that, but I don't know if you could truly believe that this one special cop has 6 or 7 world-beating things happen to him where he saves the entire planet or a city or a building.
Well, if there aren't any final thoughts, I just want to say A Good Day to Die Hard is rated R for violence and language. AJ, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it, and I always love talking Die Hard.
All right. We'll be back in a bit to talk about the future. Ooh. New to DVD and Blu-ray this week, the week of February 19th, Anna Karenina, a film we reviewed on our show. And I liked that quite a bit. I don't know how much it'll hold up to the small screen, but yeah, I'd say check that out.
I'll definitely watch it again, at least for the first 20 minutes. It's just like a mind blender of tapestry.
Yeah, there's a lot of mise-en-scène I want to steal and show to my class. Argo, I don't need to say anything about Argo at this point, probably. Atlas Shrugged 2, The Strike. Lots of movies starting with the letter A. Sinister, a film I saw. Don't really recommend it. And Undefeated comes out on DVD.
Is this the
week.
documentary?
Yeah, that's the documentary that won the Best Documentary Academy Award last year. I didn't realize it hadn't come out yet on home video, and it actually is also available on Netflix Instant. Just popped up there.
Well, way to strike
weekend.
when the iron's hot, guys.
Yeah, kind of like now that there's a whole new batch of movies people will be talking about. Probably missed the boat, but I see you saw an Oscar nominee that I've been meaning to get to. Tell me about how was Flight, Pat?
Well, I am not a giant Denzel Washington fan, and it's hard to say you're not a Robert Zemeckis fan, but at least the movies he's made since Polar Express, I haven't been a fan. But we rented Flight, and I knew pretty much whatever you saw in the trailer. There was an upside down plane at one point, and of course that's like the wow shot. But that is an extremely good movie and probably the best I've ever seen Denzel Washington in anything, and that's including Training Day, because he's not playing just completely against type. I mean, he is not a good guy in this film, but it's a little more than just a thug who is like a double crosser like he is in that movie. And it's I remember when I saw Kevin Smith at the National Association of Broadcasters convention about 2 years ago now, he was talking about Red State. When he was making it, the whole time he was writing the film, he's like, I'm going to do something that nobody's going to expect. If we're going to zig, we're going to zag. Well, in this movie, Robert Zemeckis and the screenwriter's name is escaping me. It's not so much that where it's just, what's going to happen next and you hate it, but it's just done so artfully and so well. And it's, it's real. It's Bob Zemeckis, so there's not too much going on there that's not beyond what you're seeing, but it's just a really good film. And I might actually say that I would be okay if he took home the Oscar in some sort of crazy upset.
Oh, really? I know the screenwriter for Flight is John Gatins. Or Gattins. I don't know if he's been credited with anything else. I'm very curious to see Flight. My concern was, and now you can tell me whether or not this is the case, Robert Zemeckis, back when he was actually making live-action films, I remember, I don't know how much he had to do with the marketing, but I remember with Castaway and with the other film he made, What Lies Beneath, the trailers seemed to have gave away the trailers seemed to give away the entire movie. And when I saw the trailer to Flight, I thought the same thing. But you'd say there's more twists and zigs than the basic plot laid out in the
I
trailer?
think so.
Okay.
It's definitely the skeleton in there. Like, you can tell where the arc of the film is a little bit if you're really paying attention, but you don't know anything about the meat of the story. It's not like several times when we go see a movie in the theater, I'll turn to Marita or whoever I'm with and I'll say, well, I guess I don't have to see that. That is not what's going on in this film.
Oh, great. Well, I hope to squeeze that in before Oscar night. What else did you see?
Well, not necessarily an Oscar hopeful at any point. I'm a giant Star Trek fan. I've seen all the movies several times, but the one that I have not seen several times is Star Trek Insurrection, which is Next Generation's crew third film. And it was surprising. I watched it on Sunday with Marita was reading a book and had to write a report on it, and I could not believe how much of the film I forgot. And it's actually much better than I remember it being. And I would say behind First Contact, it's the second best I was a fan of Generations, and there's some great quotes in that movie. And of course, it's got William Shatner in it, but it makes me really sad that they didn't make more films and that Nemesis was just mishandled to the point of almost being completely unwatchable. But I'd say for all those naysayers about Star Trek out there, this is not necessarily the movie to go watch, but for Star Trek fans who are on the fence and, feel like they need to revisit some stuff, go watch that movie. And the reason I watched it is because I was watching Star Trek Deep Space Nine and trying to watch all the Dominion War episodes. And this was the movie that kind of ties into that story arc. So I said, I'm going to watch Insurrection as well to see how it fits in. And it's better than that entire story arc. So that's something there. What did you see, Jacob?
Well, I saw a few things this week. As I've been talking about every week, I am TAing a intro to film class, and this week they had to watch Rashomon, and which they should watch. They should definitely watch Rashomon. It's a great film. I had to watch it in my intro to film class when I was an undergrad. But the unfortunate thing is they have to watch Rashomon immediately the week after having watch Hero.
Are we talking about the Dustin Hoffman Hero?
No, the Jet Li Hero. With Zhang Yimou's Hero, which has very much the Rashomon plot structure and plus martial arts. And having talked to them, and some of them struggled with Hero, I'm really worried about their feedback on Rashomon. But it's a great film. It's better than I remember it being, actually, having watched it as a junior or whatever 10 years ago in college. A lot more visually interesting than I remembered. For some reason, I haven't watched a Kurosawa film in years, but for some reason in my head, I pictured him as a stationary camera. The images move and the camera does not, but his camera's a lot more fluid than I remembered. So it was really good for me to revisit Rashomon. I also have nothing to do with Rashomon or Rashomon structure. Saw Compliance, which is now on Netflix Instant. We've talked about it a little bit on this show.
That's one of those films that you see in there and I want to watch, but I don't want it to be in my Netflix recently watched history. So is it worth seeing, or is it?
It's haunting me there right now. It's a good movie. I imagine it doesn't have the same effect as seeing it in the theater at Sundance last year. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Compliance, it's about it happened in a McDonald's a few years ago. A prank caller was able to convince the manager of the McDonald's to basically harass to exceedingly degrees.
Yeah, completely debase one of her cashiers.
And it's very compelling. It's very well acted, but you do feel a lot of it is about voyeurism a little bit. And I think the very end of the film kind of redeems the seedier, creepier sides when it really becomes about why we listen to authority and why we decide to do things. It's a very smart film, actually. And completely the opposite of Compliance would be, I also watched Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze.
With Vanilla Ice.
With Vanilla Ice. And I kind of wish we had some excuse to do I don't know if I'd really want to do a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles franchise flashback or reevaluation of those movies, but I really want to talk in depth about The Secret of the Ooze and how ridiculous it is. I have a very soft spot for it, nostalgia-wise, but it's a very flimsy film.
Well, we were talking about unveiling a special segment called what was it? Because We Said So, or Why Not, where we just pick a random movie from our personal history and watch it.
Oh yeah, well, Turtles 2 could definitely be a candidate for that. That Vanilla Ice sequence, I never realized he's basically in the world of the movie. He is singing that ninja rap song for like 10 minutes as plot things go on. It's pretty ridiculous, but I love that film from a kid. But enough about what we have seen recently. Let's move on to our special segment for this week. Pat, as we mentioned earlier on the show, the Oscars are coming up this weekend. We talked about we should probably do something about the Oscars. Every podcast, every movie podcast worth its salt is probably going to be talking about the Academy Awards. And we thought about, well, we could predict the winners for this year, but I don't know what you think, Pat, but this year there seems to be so many frontrunners that I don't think it's even that much fun of a game.
That, and we're both a little upset that The Master was almost completely shut out of the categories we care the most about.
Yeah, don't get me started on that again. And by the time you listen to this, unless you listen to it as soon as it comes out, which you should, the Academy Awards will be over, and we're going to sound like morons because we picked all the wrong winners anyway. Or we predicted them all right because we all know Daniel Day-Lewis and Argo is probably going to win Best Picture and whatnot. So it would bore you. So we decided, what can we do that'd be a little interesting when talking about the Academy Awards? So instead of picking who we think is going to win in 6 days, we are going to pick the Academy Award winners for a year from now. 2014. February, whenever. The films of 2013, what's going to win the Academy Awards? Pat, how do you think we're going to do?
I'm pretty sure we're going to be horribly off. If you had asked me who would win a year ago, I probably would have just flat out said Paul Thomas Anderson.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, a lot of the films that are going to be the frontrunners, we probably don't even know about at this point. There's probably going to be some indie darling that premieres at Toronto that's going to sweep, win everybody's hearts. We don't know. So this isn't really a 2013 preview, and these aren't necessarily the films we're most looking forward to. This is kind of throwing darts in the dark, and I think it'll be fun to revisit a year from now and see how right we are, because I have a good feeling, actually, about some of my predictions. But, no, not at all. We talked about doing it really jokingly, and I was going to nominate Pacific Rim, or say Pacific Rim was going to win every category, including Best Actor. The robots were going to win, even though I found out the robots are not autonomous machines. They are controlled by actors. And thus
it looks like they're controlled by two men who are, choreographed dancing.
Yeah, I still haven't seen that trailer, yet it's still my most anticipated film. Maybe the trailer would change that. So what category do you want to start with, Pat? Where do you want to go? Where do you want to stick your flag first?
Well, it's really interesting because after we assigned this idea, then I was like, man, do I even know all the films that are going to come out or the ones that are going to be serious, contenders come the end of the year? And I don't. And then these categories that we just suggested, maybe looking at Best Supporting Actor, Actress, the Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Director, and Best Picture. The hardest one, but yet the ones that I think always seem to be interesting picks come the end because they never go to who you suspect, is at least a year out that I thought was Best Supporting Actor, Actress. I don't know if you got that much in depth, but just considering who's not going to win this year and who should win, or not should win, but has like a good claim to say that he could win for several movies, being Matthew McConaughey. I thought Best Supporting Actor and Actress could be a good one for him for this coming year because I doubt they give it to him for Mud, Jeff Nichols' next film. But he's in Martin Scorsese's The Wolf of Wall Street, and if you've been riding the wave of Matthew McConaughey over the last 18 months, he's just the man on the screen right now. So I thought that would be it seems like the Academy Award is always a year late with a lot of actors and directors, or in the case of Martin Scorsese, 30 or 35 years late. So I thought he'd be a good pick, but also for my wild card, completely wild card, and I want to get your thought on this. Alexander Payne's Nebraska is coming out next year. And Will Forte is the main actor in it, or the two-hander. He's holding it, he's carrying it with someone else, I forget. But I thought he would be an amazing out of left field Best Supporting Actor winner.
Oh, and Alexander Payne being a director known to kind of highlight like maybe old TV stars like Thomas Hayden Church, who was nominated for in that category, if I remember right. Matthew McConaughey is a really brilliant choice, actually, because he's someone I think is very well loved, a hard worker, and it would be, like you said, kind of a legacy victory. My choice is another legacy victory. There's a film coming out later this year called Monuments Men.
Oh, yes. Interesting. I considered this one as well. Go ahead.
George Clooney is going to be directing it, and it's going to be about monuments and the Monuments, Fine Arts, and Archives program, and they're saving pieces of art and other culturally important items before Hitler destroys them during World War II. I think I lifted that straight from Wikipedia, mind you. And in that movie is Bill Murray, someone who I think the Academy wants to recognize. Everyone seems to like Bill Murray. I think if Hyde Park on Hudson would have been a better movie, again, I haven't seen it, but it got pretty critically drubbed. He would be up there with Daniel Day-Lewis as a frontrunner, I think. And I think Hollywood wants to give Bill Murray an Oscar. I think if this movie is any good and if his role is any good, I think this will be it. I also have a wild card. I saw that Andrew Dice Clay is going to be in Woody Allen's new film Blue Jasmine.
This is the wildest of wild cards, Jacob.
But I just want to throw out maybe Andrew Dice Clay. Like maybe he has a really touching, performance from I don't know, and people would be so surprised by it that they're like, well, this will get people watching the Academy Awards, getting the Dice Man in there. So.
Oh man, I'd love to see him up there. Riddle me this, riddle me that, with his golden statue.
Probably not going to happen. Did you have any ideas for who could win supporting actress a year from now?
No, I was thinking Carey Mulligan, but I kept thinking about the same actresses and actors that are always up there for that. So I didn't pick a dark horse or a perspective. Do you have somebody in mind?
I see that there is an adaptation coming out this year of The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, which is a short story about a guy who daydreams, and Ben Stiller is directing it. I think depending on the tone of that, it could possibly be, a sleeper. But because I know a lot of people love that short story, and I saw that Shirley MacLaine is in that, and she's one of those older Hollywood actresses, Hollywood royalty, mind you, that if she's any good in it, I could see her getting a nom and possibly the statue. So that's pretty out there. Of course, I'm not going to put money on any of these guesses, but let's move on to the main acting
if I could clarify my Carey Mulligan choice, it wasn't for The Great Gatsby. I was thinking more along the lines of, left field, Inside Llewellyn Davis, the Coen brothers movie for this year, because she doesn't seem like somebody would fit in any of their films.
I didn't know she was in that. So, see, this is good for me. I'm learning a lot. I learned a lot by doing this list, actually. Do you have any nominees in the big acting categories?
Yes. For Best Actress, there was a play that I saw maybe 2 years ago now called August Osage County, and it is maybe the most vulgar play I've ever seen in my life. And I'm not a giant stage guy. I just happened to get tickets to it in Des Moines. And John Wells is directing it. And in it is Meryl Streep and Julia Roberts. And this is a play, and like many good plays, there's not an out-and-out, through and through main character, but both of their characters, the mother of this family, the matriarch, and the daughter who's kind of losing her mind, and at least throughout the film, Julia Roberts, I would just love to see either of them duke it out from this movie of just being vulgar city, because it's hard for me to even think of a movie where Julia Roberts has been just somebody that everybody hates, but her character by the end of this play or movie is going to be someone hates. And for those who don't know, John Wells directed The Company Men 2 years ago, a movie that I greatly enjoyed.
Yeah, I think it would be cool to see every time Julia Roberts a major actor seems to do one of those against type roles. It usually gets some acclaim. When I mentioned at the beginning of this segment that we would be talking about movies that we're maybe not necessarily looking forward to, my pick for Best Actress kind of fits in there. There's a film coming out this year called Saving Mr. Banks, which is about Walt Disney trying to convince the author of Mary Poppins that he should be allowed to make Mary Poppins into a movie. And I thought a bit about maybe Tom Hanks, who's going to play Walt Disney. He's had the mustache on all when he was talking about Cloud Atlas, so everyone's kind of seen his Walt Disney look. I thought a bit about that, but I think people still love Tom Hanks, but I don't know if they're going to give him any more Oscars until he's maybe a few years older and has a critical reevaluation or something.
I don't know. Daniel Day-Lewis is in line to pick up his third this year.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But the thing is, I think but Daniel Day-Lewis is such a transformative actor, where Tom Hanks is almost always Tom Hanks. But the main female lead is Emma Thompson, and she's someone who I think is right there ready for the Streep-like reappreciation, where I think people are taking Emma Thompson for granted a little bit, and she's always so good. If she's good in this movie, I can see them saying, "Oh, well, yeah, she should have an Oscar for this." I had actually a few people who I think are contenders, maybe for Best Actress nominees at least. So I'm really hedging my bets here. I'm going to list them off unless you stop me.
No, go for it.
Kristen Wiig is also in that Secret Life of Walter Mitty movie, and I think people still feel she was snubbed for Bridesmaids for a nomination. So if she's good in that, maybe this would be her. Jodie Foster, who a lot of people are still talking about, and there's rumors about her quitting acting, or she even said she might quit acting, I think, in her Golden Globe speech. She's the villain in Elysium, a sci-fi movie that's coming out this summer. And speaking of sci-fi movies, Sandra Bullock is, I believe, like on screen for most of this film, the new Alfonso Cuarón movie coming out called Gravity, like alone, kind of doing the Sam Rockwell thing from Moon. So, and obviously she's an Oscar winner, so who knows? I think I wouldn't be surprised if at least one of my guesses gets nominated this year, or in a year. Yeah, and I'll just move on. To Best Actor, if you don't mind.
No, have at it.
Take your turn, because you mentioned August Osage County. I think this is going to be a big year for Benedict Cumberbatch.
No, I agree. I agree completely.
Because
he's in 3
Star
films
Trek.
I consider strong contenders.
Yeah, exactly. He's in Star Trek, which will be his main exposure. I think a lot of people will get to know who he is from Star Trek. He's voicing Smaug in the Hobbit movie that's coming out at the end of the year. And he's in that August Osage County movie, I think.
You're also forgetting he's in the WikiLeaks film.
Yes, he is playing Julian Assange in The Fifth Estate. And that's the one I actually think, if he gets nominated for any of them, that's probably the showiest role. Again, not knowing August Osage County. And Star Trek is probably a pretty showy role, but that's the most prestige-like role, would be Cumberbatch in The Fifth Estate. I love Cumberbatch.
Has any actor ever won an Academy Award for a science fiction film? Maybe that's a hard question to throw at you just at random, but I can't think of one off the top of my head.
I can barely think of nominees. I remember it was a big deal when Ian McKellen got nominated for The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings, and that's not sci-fi, I know. But
well, sorry to throw that at you, but keep going about Benedict.
Oh, no, I just love Benedict Cumberbatch, and his name is really fun to say. So Benedict Cumberbatch. People will vote that because they want to hear whoever's up there say his name.
I didn't want to go on too long with my pick, but speaking of Monument Men, Matt Damon is in it, and George Clooney he hasn't really won an Oscar for acting yet. Didn't he win it for writing Good Night and Good Luck?
Clooney?
Yes.
He has...
or did he win for Syriana with his acting?
He has Best Supporting Actor for Syriana.
Okay, well, never mind. But he's directing Monument Men, and Matt Damon, I believe, is the main character, or one of the main characters, and he seems like a guy that the Academy wants to give an award to any moment now. And if this movie being set in World War II and, dealing with art and, France and Belgium and those areas, I think that there's a good chance in Italy, there's a good chance that Matt Damon will be at least nominated. And if he wins, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I would like to see that. The other actor I wanted to mention, and this is a film I'll talk a little bit more, it's called The Counselor. The lead in that is Michael Fassbender, who has been delivering good work for the past few years, and I think it's only a matter of time before he gets a nomination for something. And being the lead in this movie, which again I'll talk about later, is probably a good place to start.
Speaking about that, I didn't consider it because his last 2 films, Steve McQueen's last 2 films, have not gotten a ton of awards praise, mainly because of the subject matter, I think, of Shame. But if 12 Years a Slave is as good as Shame and Hunger, his last 2 films, I would just cry like bloody murder if he's not up for something at the Academy Awards next year.
For Fassbender or
either one, Steve McQueen, because
okay.
I think he's like a known artist, not generally a director, since he's only done 2 serious films. I think it would be incredible if that movie follows the same streak of quality.
So moving on to the 2013/2014 Best Director, you think Steve McQueen is a contender?
Yes, but actually I gave my award to Richard Linklater for Before Midnight. And Richard Linklater is not an Academy darling in any respect of the word, but I was giving this the Peter Jackson touch of he's made 3 films that everyone, well, I haven't seen Before Midnight. Actually, I've not seen the other two before. The other two either, Before Sunrise,
FWOAC
Before
franchise
Sunset.
flashback.
Seems everybody loves these films, and
I
if
love
you
them.
keep a certain amount of quality and feel and concept and acting and directing in over 3 movies, is something he should at least be regarded for a nomination. So I'll be interested to see those other 2, maybe eventually, and then eventually see this, and then see if the Academy, follows my lead. After getting Chris Pratt right, I think they're going to get this right as well.
Yeah, it was researching the Best Director category where I found out how many films I have yet to be excited for this year. Because I found out there were films coming out by Terry Gilliam. There are 2 potential Terry Malick films coming out, To the Wonder and the one he's doing about the Austin music scene that doesn't have a title yet. The Coen brothers are back with Inside Llewyn Davis that you mentioned. Bennett Miller has a film coming out. Spike Jonze has a film coming out that he wrote and directed. And Sofia Coppola has a film coming out, though, I think her star's dimmed a little bit. So, unfortunately, my Best Director pick, though, is a lot less exciting than that. I just went with Martin Scorsese for Wolf of Wall Street because I think people still love him. That film is about a stockbroker who I think he refuses to cooperate in some sort of fraud, and he gets in trouble with the mob. It's so hard to say with these weird one-sentence liners you get on IMDb and whatnot, but I just went with the big gun. I'm saying Scorsese will at least get a nomination, so he probably has a 1 in 5 shot of winning. So I'm going to go with that.
Interesting. And the big one, I guess, if you consider Best Picture, which personally I find that to be the one they get wrong the most often. What do you have there, Jacob?
That's where I'm going with The Counselor, the film directed by Ridley Scott, who I didn't give Best Director because I don't know. I don't know how much people are still in love with Ridley.
He's never won an Oscar for Best Director, so he's star-crossed, and I doubt he cares at this point.
Yeah, I guess he did win for Gladiator, because that's the year Soderbergh won. And this is so funny because we're so against the Academy politics, but that's pretty much all we're talking about with this weird prediction thing. But yeah, he's directing that, and it's by a script by Cormac McCarthy, his first original 2-screen script. I know it's a law film. I think they're kind of keeping it under wraps, and I know that Fassbender character that I talked about earlier, his character name is just The Counselor. So that's kind of a Cormac McCarthy thing of just giving the character's name his occupation. So I don't know. I have a good feeling about that film. And I also wanted to throw out a wild card. Adam Agoyan is directing a film that's coming out this year, or he's directed a film that's coming out this year called Devil's Knot. And that is about the West Memphis 3. Famously put in the Paradise Lost documentaries, 3 of them, plus a West of Memphis documentary. And that has quite the cast. Dane DeHaan, Reese Witherspoon, and Colin Firth. So I know the Hollywood types love the West Memphis 3. So I want to throw that in as a wild card. If that film's any good, then it's going to get some traction.
Interesting. My choice, I actually kind of came up with a few possibles and obvious, like Scorsese, if he makes a film and it's, an above average for him, he's going to be nominated at least for Best Picture. Not to say that any movie he's made in the last 10 years has been below average or not worthy. I've actually been a major fan of some of his films in the last 12 years. But I picked Gravity for Best Picture because I think the concept of just 2 people who are floating through space, and that's the entire movie after the International Space Station blows up, is if that turns out to be as watchable as some of his other high concept films like Children of Men, or not high concept, but Y Tu Mama Tambien, Alfonso Cuarón. If this movie is as good as I want it to be, and I hate getting my hopes up, I think it could be, a classic. And this is a year with some really interesting films like The Wolf of Wall Street and Monument Men. And even Jason Reitman has a film that's completely under the radar right now that I think could be, like an Alexander Payne style film, or more, not so much of his young adult, but going back to, say, Up in the Air with Labor Day. So it's going to be a good year for film. I can at least say that.
I said it's not a 2013 preview, but no other discussion we've had yet on this podcast has gotten me more excited for the year ahead. So We'll have to wait about 10 months or so to find out if any of our predictions come true. But I'm willing to wait it out. How about you, Pat?
I'm not. Can you just punch me? Come over to my house, drive the 1,700 miles or so, and knock me out, and then wake me when Gravity comes out.
Sounds good. When we come back, we'll talk about what's coming up in theaters and wrap up the show. Keep listening.
Welcome back. If you'd like to be a part of the show, it's pretty simple. All you need to do is contact us on filmcastwithoutacause.com. There you'll find every way to get in touch with us. You can rate us on iTunes, which helps us get out there to the public. You can tweet at us, filmcastwoac. You can send us an email, filmcastwoac@gmail.com. And my personal favorite, the FWOAC phone. Step up to the plate. If you got an opinion, why not record it with your own voice? 515-412-0737. Just tell us anything. Tell us what film you think will win Best Movie of the Year next year. If you think it's going to be G.I. Joe, Retaliation, or whatever that movie's called, let us know why. If you got a super big thing, if you love The Rock, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, maybe that will be the movie for you. Jacob, are we going to see Dwayne The Rock Johnson's Snitch?
Oh, man, almost. Pat, you never realize how long February is until you have to talk about what movies come out the month of February. This has been a dismal month, and it's not getting any better. What comes out February 22nd? Snitch, as you mentioned, which I don't know nothing about. Yeah, you can't get it out of me. I was trying to do an impression of a snitch. It wasn't very good. Dark Skies, the Kerry Russell starring alien film, and One Life, which is a nature documentary that I didn't know about until this weekend when I saw the trailer for it. So, what of those are we going to review? None of them, because Michael Haneke's Amour finally made its way to Middle America and North Carolina. So we can each see what is being called one of the more depressing films of the year. But no more depressing than Snitch or Dark Skies, I'm sure.
Right, I'm sure.
Yeah. I think this week, however, is the end of the winter season. I think after this, we're getting more into what I call the spring season or the pre-blockbuster season, which is kind of the minor leagues of summer, where directors who have yet to break out and directors who are maybe past their prime, like Bryan Singer, their new films are coming out. So we have some relatively interesting films to talk about, but after this week. But
hey, you can always hold a candle, because remember that Gladiator came out, I believe, in March. If not March, at least April. So there is some hope that there will be a shining diamond in the month of March.
Oh yeah, and Cabin in the Woods and The Hunger Games were early last year.
That's true.
So yeah, you have to hope something is going to pop out, but I doubt it's going to be Snitch. So we're amouring it up. But until next week, I'm Jacob Rosdale.
And I'm Patrick Boberg.
Thanks for listening.
That's a wrap.
I'm finished.